Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I am Alan Baker, and this is the Alan Baker Show. Today, we're going to be continuing on a series of casts that we're working on life's rules of engagement. And today, we're going to be talking about the third rule, which is self educate. My name is Alan Baker. I am a lifelong martial artist. I escaped the system as a young man to follow my dreams. And along that journey, I forged a mindset of accomplishment. This allowed me to achieve things that even I didn't think was possible. And sometimes I look back and still am surprised at what I have done in life. On this show, we're going to talk about those things and the mind tools that I learned from my different mentors and how they can help you move forward in your life, separate from the system, and achieve great things. So in the early 90s, I was working as a martial artist in a martial arts academy and living the life. I mean, it was what God made me to do on this planet. And as I was doing that, I started to collect students. I was doing a lot of private lessons during the day, and I would teach classes at night. And doing the private lessons gave me opportunity to meet and grow my network of incredible people. And some of those people were entrepreneurs. And one of them in particular, he was a dentist, and he was growing his dentistry offices in that area. Very successful entrepreneur. And he really didn't come to class. All he wanted to do was the private lessons. So he was trying to progress through the different systems that we taught privately. So I would see this gentleman at least twice a week. And as he got to know me and my personality, he realized that, I was a hustler, that I not only was working at the academy, I was trying to develop other things, trying to develop other opportunities to create more money outside of the academy. And due to that, he started to coach me. And little by little, over time, our relationship got to be that of an exchange. At some point, I felt bad for even charging this guy because of all the incredible information he was giving me, and the influence that he had on my life was very powerful. So at one point I said, "Hey man, don't pay me anymore. Let's make this official. You can officially mentor me and I'll teach you." And this was a nice exchange because it caused him to start taking his mentorship more seriously. And the amount of growth I got out of that was put on turbo after that moment. And this relates to the topic we're talking about today, which is off life's rules of engagements. It's number 3, which is to self educate. I got introduced to this idea from this gentleman. And I might have heard it a few times before, but he actually took the time to sit down and explain it to me and help me develop my own process. So he was pretty harsh on the public school system. He flat out told me when we had our initial discussion on this, he goes, "Look, the system failed you. And unless you change it, it will continue to fail you." And everyone's experience was different, but this is the information I got from him. And he wanted to point out some of the reasons why before having me start to develop my own educational process. And this is something that we discussed in a previous podcast. But, he said most of what you went through in school was based on a standardized curriculum. It wasn't designed for you and your goals. It was designed to get the general population up to a point. And that can only take you so far. And he also pointed out that a lot of what was taught was also based on being compliant and conformity. And I've always had a little bit of natural buck. He saw that in me and he said, thank goodness that it was not snuffed out or destroyed because you need that for an entrepreneurial mindset. And for me personally, I believe you have to have it for a warrior's mindset too. And then he discussed how the methods of assessment in the system weren't necessarily designed to assess success that is needed for an entrepreneur or a hustler or someone that was driving for a high level in life. Again, it was based more standardized to get, the average group to a certain level. He pointed out that the system had a lack of a lot of real world learning opportunities. And that's true. Now that I look back, a lot of those type of opportunities were created. I created them myself. I didn't really have access to a lot of them when I was coming up through the system, so to speak. And another part of that is limited exposure to entrepreneurship. I don't remember learning anything really other than basic math about entrepreneurship. And to me, that is a huge area of study. I'm actually writing a book now on developing your own personal education system. And, in the book, I outline pillars that you have to focus on. And one of them is entrepreneurship. It is a huge study, and it is a very important study because learning that and understanding financial systems and the ability to build revenue streams creates freedom in your life. First and foremost, yes, money is great, and it also creates opportunities for you. Like I've been able to have opportunities for myself, like my training. Due to what I developed after learning from this man, it created the financial ability for me to start to travel the world and train with some of the best instructors and mentors that I could find. And so it's another reason to understand that entrepreneurial life pillar. And that just was not available to me. I had to learn all of that afterwards. And a lot of it started with this man. Um, Another thing that was taught was to me, the aversion to risk, not wanting to take risk. And, that through time can become a habit. And I am not a big believer in not taking risk. Risk is part of not only the warrior's mindset, but the entrepreneurial mindset. You have to have the ability to take risk and navigate it. And what I mean by navigate it is, when you take a risk, it doesn't always go right. And that's okay because it's not going to. We discussed this in failure. There's no way to get away from it, especially if you place yourself on the journey to greatness. You're going to trip and fall. And it's the same thing with taking risk on that journey. Some of them are not going to work. I could give you a list of them, and some of them very painful, but they're coming. Have a method to navigate that and then get right back on track. But you want to develop the ability to take educated risk. Of course, you've got to put in the time, study the scenario, but that's something that the system actually affected me. I had to relearn that, how to be open to taking those risks and that sort of thing. And the next thing would be, for me, creativity and innovation. Um, it's not that it wasn't present when I came through the system. It was a little bit, but it really was not, in taught in a way of where it was important. And I found out later that your creativity is one of the most powerful things that you can cultivate, and your ability to innovate and grow and think outside of the box. So that was another area that was not necessarily supported or taught inside the system. And Obviously, the approach overall is a collective approach, and it's standardized. It's not really focused on the individual, and the ability to operate as an individual, especially as an entrepreneur, and with the warrior's mindset, is very important. And these were some of the areas that he pointed out to me, just to kind of make me aware of where I was and help me understand what I needed to fix. And he did, and then he went on to talk about developing my own personal education system and taking charge of it, because when we had that initial discussion, there was a lot of loopholes, and I started to make a list, per his suggestion, of areas that I did not have an education in. I was not introduced to. And after putting that list together, he wanted, and he actually assisted me in developing the education process, at least to get started. Because it's a lifelong journey. This is something that doesn't stop. And this was part of what he taught me, is it's not something that you see a beginning and an end to. You go to school, you get a piece of paper, and you're done. And in your mind, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go do this thing. That's not true. It is a lifelong process, and it is important that it is a lifelong process. I reference Guru Dan and Asano often, and this, again, he pops in my head when I start talking about these life principles, because he has spent a life being a student, actively learning and self-educating, and it keeps the mind sharp. He To this day, I think he is 86 years old now and still sharp as a tack. It amazes me when I go out to an instructor camp, spend time with him. Every time I come away motivated, amazed by who he is and what he's done, and what he continues to do. So that's another reason, that you want to maintain that continuous self-education process. And then, when we started to look at some of the reasons for building it, these are some of them that he gave me at that time. And fortunately for me, and for you guys, I've always been an avid note taker. And doing this podcast has made me go back and dig up a lot of those notes and review them, which has been fantastic for me. Quite honestly, who knows how many people are going to be out there listening or watching this and will benefit from it. But I know the process of going through preparation for these has forced me to go back and revisit, relearn, and re-educate a lot of different things. But some of the benefits that he said were going to come out of it, and I wrote these down so we could run through them. But I wrote them down because after looking back and having done this since the 90s when he introduced it to me, all of these were true. And one is the ability to adapt to rapid change. Sometimes life will throw things that you do not expect. They will pop up at the last minute. And sometimes those things will put you on your ass. And I know everyone has dealt with this type of thing. Sometimes you'll stay there for a little while. You're like, I'm just going to sit here and rest, which is okay. But, if you're properly trained and self-educated, you will adapt to that quicker. You can personalize your own training. We talked about in a previous episode, knowing your plan, building that life blueprint around what you want and what you want to achieve. And based on that, you can start to build and put together your self-education system. You can personalize it specifically for you, and you can personalize the learning. And this is a part of it that was very unique to me, is you will start to figure out how you learn. And it's different for each individual. Like for me, I'm very visual. I use whiteboards often to learn on. I'll take notes on it, rewrite the notes. I learn better when I'm on my feet, not when I'm on my ass. So when I am doing some creative work, or I'm starting to do a self-education session, A lot of times I'm standing because I know that works for me. And certain music affects it, certain lighting in the room affects it for me. But over time, you start to understand and figure out what works for you, and this will speed up the process. So you can personalize that learning process. It becomes a lifelong learning event, and we just spoke about this and the importance of that. You can start to focus on critical thinking and problem solving. And there's actually a lot of fantastic books available on this topic. There's a lot of really good online training courses that help you start to develop your critical thinking process and your problem solving process. A classic example of this that I will teach, especially in the tactical side of the training world, is the OODA loop. And it's a very simple thought process, thinking tool, and decision making tool. Now, there are more processes and tools out there that are a little more in depth, but that is a really good one to start with if you've never thought about having a critical thinking mind tool or a problem solving mind tool. You can take a look at the OODA loop. It's very interesting, and start to develop those critical thinking skills. Um, Access to diverse educational systems and processes, because you will start to look around. I have one now that I just recently started for presenting, because I'm doing more of it now. I'm doing more public speaking, obviously doing this. And so part of that is improving your communication, your presentation, and that is a powerful tool. But one of the first things I did was start to research the market and find the individuals out there who taught it the best and what methods did they deliver it. It's very cost effective to handle your own self education process. Um, I I do spend money on it because the longer I've done it in life, the more powerful I see that it is on your life and where you're going. I've spent quite a bit more money on it, but it is, in my experience, way more cost effective than college, for instance. So you're going to spend money either way. Taking control of it and focusing it in the specific direction you want to go. For me, it works better. The networking and community opportunities have been incredible because part of your self-education process is finding mentors and finding those creative mentors. Not the ones who have just done the bare minimum to get to where they're going. I'm talking about the individuals that are changing their industries. They are creating things that have not been done. Those are the mentors that I'm looking for. And for me, I've got like a process I go through. I've got certain standards I look for in a mentor before I approach them. And that is one of them is that they are what I call a sun student. They are creative and they are making change outside the box in their industry. And so you will, as part of this process, start to develop a network of those individuals. I am very fortunate that I am connected to quite a few of those. And, you a lot of times just introduction and relationship, sometimes you have to find them and pay. That's, currently out there that referred to quite often as a life coach. But for me, a lot of them that I am working with, I approached, they didn't do that professionally. I just told them, look, I will purchase an hour of your time for this reason. And, I would like to do it on a regular, consistent basis. And if that's something they're willing to do, they will do it. And I have found a lot of times those individuals, once they realize that you are that like-minded sun student, you are a creative, looking for a creative, it helps them just as much as it helps you. And I can't tell you, more often than not, even though it started out as a financial arrangement, it ended up them saying, I get just as much out of this as you. Let's just spend time having this communication and feedback on a regular basis because it helps me too. And passion and motivation. you start to find your passion sources. And a lot of times this is based on what we discussed previously. When you're putting together that life blueprint and you're choosing where you're going to go, you also have to find what are your passion sources? What are those events that give you passion and energy? Who are those people that give you passion and energy? It could be books that create this energy for you and create that drive, but you start to collect them and you know what they are because there are times when you need that little extra push. You need that little extra bump of passion to keep you going because part of the process is it is a continuous education process. What does that mean? I know that, for an example, every week on this day, I'm going to spend this amount of time focused on this material. Now, some days you wake up, you're not really in the mood, and you have to tap into those passion sources, those things that will give you that passion, they'll give you that drive to go and put the time in, to focus your discipline to the point where you get it done, even though you may not feel like doing it, or maybe you haven't had sleep for a couple of days. This is one of them that I have to deal with on a regular basis just due to my schedule. But that's okay. I tap into that passion source and build that motivation and energy, and I go get it done. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is a topic that we have discussed on a previous cast. But, here it is on the set of rules as number 3. So I wanted to kind of spend a little time focusing on that. And that's it, guys. Hopefully, you got some value out of this. You got some motivation out of it. And if you did, please feel free to share it because we're trying to grow the community in order to help more people and in order to meet more people. This is cast number 10. And so I can't begin to tell you how many cool people have gotten in touch with me because of this from different parts of the world, which has been a surprise for me. I'll be honest, I didn't expect this thing to make too much noise for quite a long time, if ever, but it has surprised me, the amount of feedback I've got and the questions I've got, which have been fantastic. Keep them coming. And you can post them in the comments too. I try to come back and check them so that I can, get more information and I can make sure that I'm producing content that is relevant to what you guys are looking for out there. And let me know what you like and give me some feedback, good or bad. I'll take it all. I've got thick skin. It's a byproduct of being in the martial arts for 40-something years. I appreciate both of them. It helps me grow. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one. All right, guys, just a quick break to let you know what we are working on currently. We've mentioned this a few times in the past. We have 2 major things that we are putting together on the website right now. One is a bank of video archives, and we actually have 3 of them available right now. One is a jiu-jitsu focused video training archive, and it is focused on a program that I put together called Living Mechanics. And it is a very organized process of study for the art of grappling. Specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but as you know, I've got a background in catch wrestling, combat submission wrestling under Coach Eric Paulson, catch as catch can, Shudo. So there's a lot of influence that is going into that curriculum other than just Jiu-Jitsu. So fantastic setup, if I do say so myself. But additionally to that is the Warriors Path program. I started to build the Warriors Path program years ago as a self-development process for students at the academy. Now, this is information that is normally not taught in a martial arts school, but they are life skills that I have used and have had a huge influence on my life. And now I can look back over the course of the last 40 years. I have taught them in between classes to students and watched it have a huge influence on their lives. And so the second academy on there is the Warriors Path program. The third one, we just recently released this because we had such a huge request for it. It is a student archive for the civilian tactical program. The CTAC program we put together as an instructor training program. It is the Civilian Tactical Training Association. So we primarily just taught instructors for really almost 15 years before starting to put this archive together for the students out there because we had such a huge request for it and they wanted to see the material and start training it. So that is the third archive. We have those three archives up right now. And additional to that are the public events that we have scheduled and that we are going to be scheduling in this next year. So I don't normally host my own events, especially the tactical training related events, but this next year we're going to be doing so. We've got one up there right now, and we're working with a lot of my partners. I have a host of tactical training partners that I'm working with in order to get the events, additional events that are going to be hosted by me. So they will be open to the public and they will be posted on that website as well. So in order to check those things out, just go over to sifuallenbaker.com and you will see everything that we're working on. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me anytime, either here or through the website. And as always, I'm happy to help you guys. I appreciate you being part of the community. And hopefully, I will see you at one of these events sometime soon. All right, guys, if you are enjoying the show today and you're getting value out of the content, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for the show. That'll allow us to keep you up to date whenever we release a new episode. We are working on a lot of new material now, into this year, moving into next year. A lot of great topics that are going to be coming up, so you don't want to miss it. Also, if you know someone that might benefit from this information, please share it with them. And as always, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch or listen, depending on your platform.